Cool. Right, the next performer I have up. What can I say about you?
I'm a human being that exists.
I discovered Becca when she performed at the poetry platform, and they did a poem called Changeling, and prepare to be moved, basically. Her words are amazing. Can I have a round of applause, please, for Becca Miles?
I am taller.
Is that tall enough?
I think so. I think that's tall enough.
I'm so short.
Right, hello, I'm Becca Miles. I think one of the first things people tend to say about me when they're talking about my poetry is that I write a lot about myths. And I do. I'm going to start off with two poems that go together, and they're both about a Greek goddess, the Greek goddess Persephone, sometimes also known as Corre. It's the Greek goddess of spring, but also the queen of the underworld. She goes down into the underworld every winter and rules there alongside her husband Hades, and emerges again in springtime. So it's almost spring. She's almost ready to come back, but first she has to descend. And this is about her descent, and it's called Persephone. Dawn and dusk close around the goddess. The days grow short, the ground begins to crack. The dead are grasping at her ankles and whispering in her ear, "If you hadn't been young, if you hadn't been beautiful, if you'd been a better daughter, or a worse one." She'll hold out till the equinox, then the ground will swallow her. She is going where the salty river water will wash away her beauty and leave her hard and cold. She is going where an old man, like a beggar, reaches out a hand to help her step into his ferry, while sleep and hunger crouch like panthers in the shadows. She is going where the dark goddesses live. Hecate and Kali, Hel and Ereshkigal, they are old, tired and terrifying, and for a while she will be one of them, long enough to wonder if the spring will ever come or if she even wants it to. For here she walks in darkness, feels the crunch, crunch, crunch of bones beneath her feet and does not flinch. Here she hears the titans calling from their deep primordial prison, inaudible to those above but strumming in their shadows. Here her true bladed name doesn't cut her tongue to slivers. And with each passing winter, the old name dims and fades. The girl the world is calling, 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 Corre, Corre, growing smaller every year. Yet still she hears, still she hears. And then you have her coming back, and this one is called Corre, which is her name when she's up here. The chill is clinging tight this year. Did we think that spring would wake herself? Step hard and heavy, pound the ground, we'll melt it with our feet, our heat, our lightning storm of stamping, panting, dancing, drumming, thrusting fists down, down, down into the soil to dig our sleeping goddess out. Shout, friends, shout, we must be louder than the shroud around her, kinder than the ice that binds her. Find her, remind her, show her what she cannot see from deep beneath the earth, show her she is worthy, show her she deserves to walk upon the stalks of wheat, to feel, to speak, to heal, to eat. Her sleep was deep, it's left her thin, but this world is so sweet. Peel away her call of clay, with aching, shaking, mud-caked hands, hauling, calling, Corre, Corre, born once more in storm and thorn and scorching mystery. Right, so that's the one kind of poem that I do. The other kind of poem that I do are angry ones that I write and think, oh, this is just going to be something where I exorcise some feelings and never look at it again, and then those are the ones people like.
How it goes.
It's how it goes, you know. This one, so I'm autistic, and once a year during Autism Awareness Month, I see people sharing things by Autism Speaks. And I have to explain to them why that organisation are, eugenicists succumb. But so I just decided to write a poem about it, and it's called Autism Shouts. You wonder why we say nothing about us without us, while you parade us around as the backing track to our parents' laments, fit only to howl and growl and grunt and groan as if all we are is noise. You wonder why we're so afraid, while you funnel the funds of the scared and the drained to support your search for a solution to our existence. You wonder why we shout so loud, when high functioning means I can't speak for all of us, and low functioning means my speech isn't speech. Forgive us for feeling we're not being listened to. You wonder why we flinch when you say, love the child but hate their autism. As if we haven't heard a version of those words in the mouths of those who'd torture to the tune of love the sinner, hate the sin. And they wondered why it took 13 calls. 13 close, ear to the wall, close calls, before they believed my screams were the sound of a human being and not just noise. This one kind of follows on from that one, but perhaps not in an obvious way. It's The Good Changeling, about changeling children. Yay. I was a good changeling child. I learned to spot the signs of capricious seasons shifting. Flights of birds and turning winds, I can feel a storm begin before the butterfly flaps its wings, and even here, in human lands, away from wild fairy skies, I still find omens in every pair of eyes. I was a good changeling child. I walked the way you taught me. Knew what punishments awaited should I wander from the path. It kept me safe while I was in the woods. Now I try to head for the horizon, but sleepwalk still down unseen roads, even as they lead me into rivers and to the edge of cliffs. I was a good changeling child. I ate the fruit you fed me. Seeds embedded in my stomach, sometimes there's a scratch, something catches in my throat, I reach back, find a thorny vine, I try to pull it out, retching, ripping, spitting red, but never reach the roots. I was a good changeling child. I let you reach inside me. Sculpt the flesh like clay, peel away the bits that didn't fit the story you were spinning, until I did it to myself, packaged up my pain for you. It must have had its own shape once, but now I can't remember. I was a good changeling child. I'm sure once you were too. Woo! But, just to prove that I don't do angry stuff, I have a silly one. It's called The Goblin of Lyme Regis. It's kind of self-explanatory. I'm going to try and do it without the words, but we'll see. I mean, I did go to Lyme Regis and I was very goblin-like when I wrote it. It's partially autobiographical. Not a forest nor a swampy swamp for me, I make my goblin lair beside the sea. For I like stony, slimy beaches, I am the Goblin of Lyme Regis. Between the craggy seams, seaweed green like me, I blend in well with squelchy kelp, squeeze the bubbles. There's lots of treasures here. Years of rubbish filled the cliffs, then whoosh, the water washed the clay away and left the shinies there for me to find. Things the humans threw away, I lick them, make them mine, and pile them on my goblin shrine. Bricks worn smooth by waves and time sit side by side with mottled bottles, black granite with scenes of shining iron, mine, mine, mine. Iron pipes gone red with rust, fun for bashing crabs and gulls, but I trust rocks for bashing rocks, that's common goblin sense, and rocks fit best in goblin fists. When I split 'em, There I find spiral patterns left behind 200 million squillion years ago by Wrigley's creatures squished between the stones until I smash them open. Yell, hello, hello, my fossil friends, you'll have the seat of honour at my goblin feast of crunchy snails and stinky fish and rusty nails to chew and chomp on. Swamp and forest homes are fine for some, but I like stony, slimy beaches. I am the goblin of Lyme, Regis. From one beach to another, and from one mood to another. This is about Fairborn, which is a coastal village in Wales that is going to be underwater in 40 years. They basically decided they're not going to try and stop the sea from taking the valley, they're just going to evacuate everyone out. And I wrote this poem, and it's called Session, as in the seeding of land. Last night I dreamed of the future. The sea had risen in the night, swept away the sheep, leaving turtles in their place, swimming past my window. Great grey concrete slabs lined the shore at Fairborn. Half lie on their side, blasted by the waves. Built to weather a world war's worth of weaponry, they cannot withstand the water. 40 years, they say. 40 years until the coast defences give out. Will it happen drop by drop? A village eaten inch by inch? Or will it happen all at once? Some weakness in the seawall, smashed apart by some hungry storm? Either way, in 40 years, the sea will swallow up these paths where 4 generations of my family have passed. A 5th may see these stones. For the 6th, this poem must suffice. So I wrote that when we were at Fairborn to scatter my great aunt Maureen's ashes off the coast. She wanted them scattered off the coast so they could be carried along the way on the currents back to Ireland, where she and my grandma came from. And also while I was there, I found a lake it was a quarry that had been filled with water. At the time you could go and see it. You can't anymore because they've blocked off the path because people kept leaving rubbish everywhere. God damn it, this is why we can't have nice things. But I did get to see it while the path was open, and I wrote this poem about it. It's called Daughter of Danu. Danu is an Irish, Celtic water goddess, also seen as sort of an ancestor goddess to the Irish people. The inhuman blueness of this lake gives me a clue to why the ancients worshipped water. This holy pool is man-made, a quarry left to fill. Not stagnant though, fish are swimming far below, visible from here, so clear and clean this accidental, artificial shrine to Danu. She of the flowing waters, she flows in with a giggling spring, running out along the tunnel where I stooped to enter, rushing underfoot and out and down the hillside, spilling, tripping, hurtling, gurgling down into the bay, mixing with the ashes of a daughter of her people, dancing with the dabs and shrimps where we scattered them today. Carry her across the channel, Danu and the spirits of the earth and sea and sky. You never let her down. Now take her home. So that was about my great aunt. Her sister, my grandma, she died about a year after Maureen did. And I wrote this poem after we cleared out her house. It's called The Selkies' Granddaughter. I was sure we'd find it here, tucked beneath the 60s board games, hidden by electric blankets, peeping out from 50 years of attic junk, your smooth and silky secret sealskin. Perhaps you sold it at a village fundraiser, or cut it up and stitched it into mittens. Or did you leave it back in Ireland, lost to the fires of peculiar human tribes? But I know you had it once. I knew it from your self-portrait. The upward tilted chin, the downward glaring gaze, more suited to a haughty siren than a Belfast art student. I knew it from the creatures you'd sculpted from estuary clay, whose beastly features shifted in your fingers. I knew it when you asked me, don't bring me seaside souvenirs, but bring me back a bit of brine to splash upon my face. I knew it from your fascination with human bodies, human shapes, and how in shameless, fey-like fashion you'd make your painter's observations. I knew it from the way you strained against your English housewife's skin, and how you saw uneasy portents in our matching sea spray eyes. From one grandma to another. This is about a woman who's not technically biologically my grandma, but effectively was. I've got 3 I wrote about her. I'm going to read 2 of them. The first part's about her, Crystal. The second part is about Maureen, my great aunt, and the third part is about her again. So, it's called Enough. 1. Crystal. 9. Das ist genug. I stumbled, clutching Christmas ornaments in non-arthritic fingers, fumbling with candles and baubles and fragments of language. It took a few tries, but I finally realised genug means enough. Somehow we managed to marry my oblivious kitsch with your particular minimalism. Somewhere between my German and your English, we made ourselves understood. 2. Maureen. The hospice was one big waiting room. We took it in turns in those in-between weeks. The stroke had taken her speech, but she made her presence known by glaring daggers at the chaplain. Who is this man who dares to pray for me? When she stopped eating, I asked her 3 times. I lifted the spoon to her lips. She pushed it away. Are you sure? Lift. Push. Are you ready? Lift. Push. Is that enough? Somewhere between my hand and her lips, she made herself understood. 3. Crystal. Dignity is the quietest defiance. Your elegance seems endless, awesome, and exhausting to behold. But when you say that is enough, I hope you will be understood. This is the second one I wrote for her. I wrote it just before she died, actually about the last time I saw her. And it's called A Mundane Seance. It's a scene from some old film, black and white, subtitled. She in her fur stole, me in my long coat, walking by the rain-rippled Rhine, beneath the leafless trees that line the road. I hold the umbrella for both of us. She holds my outstretched arm, with hands of twisted glass. We go slowly. We have to. She has to. I am a barely fluent medium, brushed against a barely solid ghost. Just to pick the mood up a little bit, or at least change it from grim to just a bit weird. This poem's called Wandering the Streets at 5 a.m. You'll never guess what I was doing when I wrote it. Insomnia poems. There's been a quiet apocalypse. All the humans are gone. Only birds remain. More than before. I think that's where the people went. I'll kick in the Waterstones window, gorge myself on useless knowledge, find an art shop, learn to paint, find a piano, teach myself to play. Stop worrying about languages. The birds speak none of them. Learn to grow fruit and vegetables. Can't have the last human getting scurvy. Walk, run, feel air in my lungs, strength in my legs. Just think of all I'll do now it's all inconsequential. I'll write novels and read them to the birds. This is the newest one that I'm doing. I wrote it this year. Part of my course at the uni. We've been doing a poetry module, and one of the poems we got given to look at and try and riff around was Someday I'll Love Ocean Vuong by the very good Vietnamese-American poet Ocean Vuong, who took that idea for that poem from a poet called Roger Reeves, who wrote Someday I'll Love Roger Reeves, who based the title of that from a line from a Frank O'Hara poem, Someday I'll Love Frank O'Hara. So it's a poem with a lineage, which is fun. And it's called Someday I'll Love Becca Miles. There is a me in here who will be seen. New Year's Eve 2009, you finally found the pebble in your shoe, the bit of you that wasn't shaped as straight as you'd assumed. That revelation's worthy of a certain kind of story, but not the one you live in. Don't swap out one script for another. You were lucky in this respect. Remember instead how the truth grew out of you, placed there by no one, untraceable to anyone but me, the me in here who will be seen. I know you grew up surrounded by tripwires. A me was a risk you couldn't afford. I was the bit that stuck out, that had to be sanded down, that couldn't be allowed to grow, the balloon your mother said would burst if she didn't let the air out. You've got a big ego, you know, someday you'll get a nasty surprise. You were 5. First you learned to hate me, then to ignore me, then you forgot I existed, but still there is a me in here who will be seen. No matter how well you emptied yourself, made yourself into a vessel because her body wasn't enough for her, she had to fill you too. But the me in here who will be seen snagged and cracked the clay, and that was all I needed to let the light in. And as the cracks began to spread and she gushed out, she tore pieces from you like a dying beast and left you empty again, ready for whoever came next. But still, there is a me in here who will be seen. You'll find me in the negative space, between the copy-pasted collage. I am the bedrock you will hit when those borrowed images give way beneath you and you fall into the dark. I don't make sense, but I am here. I will be seen. And I promise I will catch you. Right. Another angry, sad one, I'm afraid. I wrote this one a few years ago after I found out about the death of Caden Clark, who was an autistic trans man in the US who was killed by police. I didn't know him personally, but I'd watched his video blogs he'd made about being autistic and being trans, and it affected me, so I wrote an angry poem, and then it turned out actually not too bad. It's just called For Caden Clark. The soft-faced dog does its duty without judgment, gently nudges flailing fists, offers up a coat to stroke until the fear desists. Here, my hands still clench, clawing, wishing they could rip away the screen in strips and see what should have been. I'm going to be the way I should have been. He beams, his voice is high but hopeful, punching past the walls of flesh and pixels to show me what it is to be a desert-gifted rain. And here, below, one slogan sticks with me. Better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6, while he was both and more. For here are all of you. You wail and shriek, in a language I remember but no longer speak, at the apocalypse that was his brief release. I want to press, face to face, mind to mind, and shake you and scream, they're pronouns not bullets, you self-centered fucks. But that is not poetry. That is no way to sneak past the barbed wire between us, and I know, all this rage is blurring my vision. Add that lens to all the rest, stacked up between us. These facts still smash through all the glass and send shards slicing into me. That he had a knife, and they had a gun, and they made a choice, and now he is dead.
Make it quick, make it quick.
Well, I need to finish on something not so grim.
Cool, that's cool.
Okay. Yeah. Have been around for a very long time. This is about a couple in a mythological tale from 5,000 years ago, Enkidu and Gilgamesh. I'm just going to read it. 1. When Gilgamesh saw Enkidu, he thought, "That man is beautiful, the way the sky is, when the sun kisses the horizon and colours spill from where they touch. Eyes the shade of cedars after rain. A mane of tangled hair, a face as open as the steppe. I gasp like a traveller, alone in the desert with a dry wind at my throat. He stands like a mountain, a craggy barrier before me, a challenge I cannot resist. He is a rainstorm that fills my heart and threatens to burst my banks. He is a river flowing of its own power, calling me to follow it to lands unknown to kings." 2. When Enkidu saw Gilgamesh, he thought, "That man is beautiful, the way a sculpture is. Stone shaped by trembling hands, moved as much by godly power than by the sculptor's will. Eyes like lapis lazuli, hair of twisted rope, a face like chiselled cedar wood. When he speaks, I hear the chant of priests. I peer at him as I do a tablet, inscribed with markings I can't read but know I might one day. He stands like a ziggurat, scorched brick reaching for the sky, alluring in his arrogance. He is a city wall I throw myself against like a swollen tide. He is a banquet of bread and figs, calling me to sit, eat, forget I was ever hungry." 3. Maybe in that moment, they felt the thread that tied their meeting to forest monsters, vengeful gods, a snake, a flower, a maddening grief. Or maybe they were just two men falling in love long, long ago.
Can I have another round of applause for Becca? I can do technical things, me. I can do it. Yeah. Hello. Cool, thank you, Becca. That was amazing. Right, we are now having a break. So, come back in 10, 15 minutes? Yeah? Yeah.